The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the Economy through Alternative Investments. The Development Bank of Jamaica, Jamaica Venture Capital Program, and Caribbean Alternative Investment Association present a weekly webinar series, Building the
Welcome to the Development Bank of Jamaica's webinar, Accessing Capital, the Way Forward for the Jamaican Economy. And to kick things off, I am pleased to invite Milverton Reynolds, Managing Director of the Development Bank of Jamaica, to bring his welcome. Milverton?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good morning to everyone out there in cyberspace, and welcome to DBJ's in-house studio once more. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar, the final in our series on building the economy, funding through alternative investments. Not to worry, we will bring you more soon on other topics relevant to the Jamaican economy. We have enjoyed 7 weeks of insights, opportunities, and options around alternative investments. And just in case you missed the earlier ones, they are still available on a playlist on the venture capital, social media pages, Facebook, and YouTube. The series cover equity financing, private credit, infrastructure development, venture capital, insolvency legislation, and most recently, tech entrepreneurship. But don't just watch. Please call us, comment, or email us if you want to know more. Clearly, the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted all of our lives. But the flip side of this pandemic is that it has also forced us to rethink how we do things and go about scheduling our activities. Here at the DBJ, we are doing everything to help businesses survive and grow. Our commitment to our mandate to facilitate economic growth and development for all Jamaicans remain strong. And we are resolute now more than ever to continue to support the MSME sector to help grow and build the Jamaican economy. My colleagues, my DBJ colleagues on the panel, of course, will tell you more about this later in today's program. As a development bank, we are always looking at our processes so that we can refine and pivot where necessary. And we believe we can handle the paradigm shift that COVID has created. Going forward, it will certainly be business unusual. Let me try and give you a snippet of what that looks like. Zoom and Microsoft Teams has become the norm for face-to-face meetings. And I am sure will continue to be a big part of the business landscape. Technology is now critical in just about everything that we do. It is our most important business enabler. More funding for innovation and more adoption of technology to drive business growth and transformation. There is a lot more to add, but we must get on with the program for today. And so we have a wonderful development partner in the Inter-American Development Bank. And I am truly delighted that Terry-Ann Sigree-Brown, Senior Private Sector Specialist at the IDB Lab, has joined us today to speak about our relationship. Again, I am very pleased with the cadre of expert panelists that have graced our studio these last 6 weeks. I welcome today's moderator, the most esteemed Al Edwards. And on behalf of our board and management, thank you for joining us and contributing to this and other webinars. It is indeed a learning experience. Use it well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melvin. Thank you indeed. And now we will hear from Terry-Ann Sigree-Brown, Senior Private Sector Specialist at the Inter-American Development Bank Lab. Over to you, Terry-Ann.
Good morning. Thanks, Al, for the introduction. Mr. Reynolds, it's always a pleasure to share the same platform with you. This session, I'm really pleased to be a part of it. This is the final session of the DBJ's series, trying to support the recovery of SMEs. And IDB has been a partner of DBJ for the last number of years, and we have done significant work with them and really view DBJ as a very strong partner of ours in this development of the MSME ecosystem, as well as the innovation ecosystem. The Inter-American Development Bank has been operating and supporting the government of Jamaica for over 50 years. And we continue to do this as we try to drive innovation. As we can all appreciate with COVID-19, the way how we do business has changed. A lot of the technology and the digitization that has been spoken of in the past, we now realize that more and more persons are forced to adopt it just based on what is happening. But series like these help us to look beyond just the adoption of digital tools, but how do we transform our businesses so we can take advantage of the innovation and of all the different technologies that are out there to assist endeavor. Along with this, alternative finance is available to help to drive this business need that they have. And DBJ remains a very strong partner working in this phase. The IDB Lab has supported DBJ in this venture in helping to create an environment that is conducive to venture capital and alternative investments operating in Jamaica. And we're very pleased at the progress that we have made so far. Since then, IDB has also partnered with DBJ, which is a program that will be rolled out, and you'll hear a little bit more about it, in providing financing support to SMEs in their innovation and their capacity to adopt new technologies and to scale into regional markets. I'm super excited about that new project that is coming on, but I don't want to take that away from what will be discussed later. I hope that everyone on this call do benefit from the information that will be shared. And I do hope that you take the information and use it to the best of your ability. Again, congrats on these sessions, DBJ. And as always, IDB is here to provide support to the MSME sector and DBJ as they continue to do the job that they do. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Terry Ann. Today we have a stellar cast of panelists, experienced, knowledgeable, know what they're talking about. We have with us Audrey Richards, Project Coordinator of Jamaica Venture Capital Program. We also have Edison Galbraith, General Manager, Loan and Portfolio Management of the DBJ. We have with us Christopher Brown, General Manager, Strategic Services Division of the Development Bank of Jamaica. And we have Christopher Williams, Chairman of the Caribbean Alternative Investment Association. Chris is also the President and CEO of Proven Management Limited. A little bit about the DBJ. It's very important to know what the DBJ does. The DBJ is a wholly owned government institution and falls under the purview of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Now, I must stress here, it is not a fund manager. It provides funding and technical assistance not only to large projects, but makes a concerted effort to assist micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, which in Jamaica are the engines of economic growth and employment. Its mission statement tells it all. It is to provide opportunities to all Jamaicans to improve their quality of life through development, financing, capacity building, public-private partnership, and privatization solutions in keeping with government policy. Again, I have to stress here the DBJ does not invest directly in businesses. And with that, let's get into it. Let's now talk about how the DBJ goes about its work and what methods are employed to increase access to venture capital and private equity financing. Audrey, you want to start with that?
Sure. Good morning.
Good morning, Audrey. Good to see you.
Thank you, Al. And morning to our audiences and partners in cyberspace. Well, the venture capital program, I'll speak to the venture capital program. which was developed really to create access to equity financing for entrepreneurs. We know that in the Jamaican space, and I guess right across the Caribbean, a lot of what has been done in financing has always focused on loans. Yes. And then you do have some that have gone to the listed equity market. But in terms of private equity, this is something that has been missing. And as a result, what you find is that a lot of businesses go without the kind of capital structure that they really need to grow their businesses and to really optimize the success. So a few years ago, we set out to develop the markets for private equity. And the private equity, as the name suggests, really is equity that is held by private companies, and it's not a listed company. The ones on the Jamaica Stock Exchange are listed equity businesses, and so venture capital can be considered to be a subset of the private equity asset class. And the whole focus has been not for the DBJ, as you just mentioned, investing in businesses, but for us to look across the landscape and understand that we're trying to establish a market. And just like any other market, the loan market has the bankers, it has the borrowers, and it has an infrastructure. So we had to be able to establish that in Jamaica. And that is what we've been working on the last few years.
Yes. Now, you started in 2013, I believe. How has that gone since then? Just tell me, how have you seen it develop from that time?
Let me tell you, what has happened is that we have been able to engage and train all parts of the market. As I mentioned, the investors, the entrepreneurs, and as well as building some of the infrastructure that is needed. And one of the things that we set out to ensure was that this become a private sector-led industry, in that it's not for the DBJ to be leading what is a private capital industry. So what has happened is that private sector players from all sources, whether they're the entrepreneurs themselves, whether they're the institutional investors, corporate investors, angel investors, everybody is now on board. They now understand the asset class, and they're now doing transactions. So in the last few years, we have had probably about 5 companies that have raised in excess of capital in excess of about $360 million US. Yes. And when you compare that to the 20 years fund managers, yes. When you compare that to the 20 years before, where these fund managers might have raised less than 40 million over a 20-year period, to see that happen over the since about 2016 is phenomenal. That means that more and more players are engaged, local, regional, international, and the funds that have done so, a lot of them are focused on Jamaica, but they also have a regional appetite.
That's fantastic, Audrey, and very creditable. Edison, let's talk a little bit about your role as the General Manager of Loan and Portfolio Management at the DBJ. Can you go into that for a few minutes?
Sure, thanks, Al, and welcome to the viewers as well. So at the DBJ, we've recognized that businesses need financing. They need other things as well, but certainly one part of it is financing. As Audrey indicated, one side of that is equity financing. However, we've been providing over the years a lot of debt financing to businesses. So we identify the need, we identify sectors of the economy that need support. We identify private sector institutions in particular who are able to deliver that support to the market. So what we've done, we accredit private sector institutions predominantly, who are commercial banks, credit unions, microfinance companies, a whole host of lenders. So we have over 30 such institutions that have a network spread all across the island. What we do, we encourage them to support various areas like micro enterprises, the small and medium-sized sectors, BPO industry, the energy sector, for instance, agriculture. And over time, what we do, we develop dedicated lines of credit that focus their attention on these areas. Typically, those lines of credit will have terms such as appropriate interest rates or attractive interest rates to the end users or the borrowers. We've been able to extend tenors in the market. So when the market was at probably 5 years, we're able to extend into 7 to 10 to 12 and now to 15. So liquidity is another area. And what we also do, we identify and fill gaps. So what we've done, we've also transitioned away from liquidity, where institutions needed liquidity. They might not need it now. So we transition into other products. So there are other things that we have to mention, like reverse factoring, that we're looking at working capital, unlocking working capital, as well as our credit guarantee, the credit enhancement facility, which provides support again on the credit side for lenders to be able to provide funding for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises.
Okay. What it appears to me, though, Edison, is that you're not operating taking a straight-jacketed approach. You seem to be very flexible and be able to react to a given situation for a business coming before you. That's what it appears to me.
Right. That's what we do. We are constantly assessing the market to see what the needs of the market are as far as the SMEs are concerned, micro enterprises, but also very critically, what are the needs of our lenders, the banks, credit unions, all those lenders. What is it that they will need in order to be able to serve the markets? So we're always assessing the market, always coming up with new products, new approaches to get the private sector, funding the private sector.
Okay, thank you, Edison. Chris Brown, you're the General Manager of Strategic Services at the DBJ.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that.
All right. Morning, everyone. So my role, I manage the technical assistance portfolio for the bank, which is really responsible for providing businesses with enough technical support, in some instances grants or advice, so that you can get financing from the private equity investors or from the banks, as Eddie mentioned. So access to capital is what MSMEs want to be able to grow their businesses. They can either go the debt route or the equity route, but what is common between the two is that investors want to know that who they are investing in is a well-run, managed company that can grow and retain profits and provide some type of return to whoever is investing. And many times the investors want the businesses to have a certain standard of operations, whether it's what your business plan would look like, how your projections will go, do you have the right team. So what the Strategic Services Division does is it has different programs that provides support to MSMEs so that they can get their operations running at an efficient or optimum level. So we have a voucher program that allows businesses to get different business development support from accredited organizations. We have programs from time to time that may be focused on innovation specifically, or for startups who are unable to get seed capital to test a prototype, to try and run to see if a product in the market will be viable prior to going to an investor. So that's the primary role of my function and division.
Are you seeing an uptick in startups probably looking for seed capital? What are you seeing out there?
What we're seeing currently, and I'd say over the last 2 to 3 years, is an influx of new entrepreneurs, right, whether they're coming out of the university system or they formerly worked at an organization and saw an opportunity that they want to take advantage of in running and operating a business. So more and more we're leaning towards trying to develop new products that can facilitate those startups actually starting, as well as the startups operating for much longer than the typical 2-year life that is put out there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chris. And now we have the indefatigable and estimable Chris Williams, looking very somber today, Chris. who's the chairman of the Caribbean Alternative Investment Association. Chris, tell us a little bit about Carrier.
Thank you, Al. Thank you. It's a little unique to be sitting in a room by yourself and trying to communicate to an audience. So I'm still getting used to it. But yeah, I mean, Carrier is trying to establish alternative financing opportunities and finance and alternative investment opportunities. What we have graduated to over the last 5 or 6 years is not just access to financing, but access to various forms of financing. That's what we want to emphasize now. The history of the Caribbean is dominated by commercial bank financing. As we all know, close to 200 years of commercial banking has dominated the landscape, and most entrepreneurs see financing as commercial bank financing and pretty much are tunnel visioned in that regard. What we're trying to do now is widen the tunnel and let individuals, entrepreneurs of various sizes understand that there are now various forms of financing available and that it is critical to widen your capital structure. What that means is you have to put in some bench strength, I like to say. You have to be able to have the shocks in the car so that when you do hit a pothole, you are able to bounce back out of it. And that's what the capital structure, an effective capital structure, allows you to do. And the layers in the capital structure includes private equity, venture capital, mezzanine credit, preference capital, commercial financing, commercial bank financing, etc. And so our role at Carrier is to let entrepreneurs and the general investing public know and understand that alternatives are here, that 2020 is not all bad, that there is some good coming out of 2020, and Carrier is one of them.
Chris, Carrier started, I believe, in November 2019. So you're coming up basically your first year. Is it the case, I mean, you're the chairman, will you be, is it the case that you've got to, you meet that after a year, or do you continue in the role and develop it? A year is not a lot of time for you to really leave your mark on it. So how does that work? Is it the case that you will continue as the chairman, or?
But unfortunately, there's a thing called votes, you know. I wish it was an autocratic society, you know, and I would just make the decisions as I so felt. But there's a thing called votes, and we will be going back to our members in November, and our members will decide. Obviously, I agree with you. It's unfortunate that the year has been wounded by this virus, and a lot of the plans that we had, we have not been able to execute. Nevertheless, we are still at it, and we are trying to make the best of the situation, and we are doing these webinars, and we are also looking at doing webinars across the rest of the Caribbean in terms of zoning in on Trinidad and the DR for membership understanding and membership gathering. So we're working, and then my members will make the decision at the end of November whether or not they would like to see us continue as a board.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Well, I'll take that into consideration. Okay. For so long, many business owners have sought to finance their ventures via debt. You are facilitating access to a number of options such as equity financing, private credit, venture capital, mezzanine financing, as Chris mentioned. Let's go through these and determine which is best suited for the different structured businesses. Audrey, would you like to go through that?
Well, it's a matter of where you are at different stages, right? If you are a startup and very early stage, and you're trying to scale up, your best bet is some kind of seed capital, maybe grants and so on. And as you've gotten traction, your business has gotten traction in the market, and you can then be able to say to an investor, look, this is my business. This is a market. I can show you I can demonstrate what the business can do, and this is a potential. This is my team that I'm coming to the table with. Then you can then be able to pitch to angel investor, or maybe even a venture capitalist if you have the kind of high potential business that's going to scale. When you now have an established business, you are now more bankable. So either through a private credit, which is also a private capital source, but giving more credit more so than equity, or also equity. You could be looking for more expansion through equity, mainly because you not only get the capital with equity, you also get access to the fund managers' networks. So a fund manager that has invested equity in your business through a private equity fund or a private credit or venture capital, they not only bring capital to the table, but you might at that point in time want to be able to leverage the connections that private capital fund manager has, whether in Jamaica, whether in the region, or internationally, as well as the expertise that they bring. Because you don't necessarily get that when you go to a bank. Bankers are not there to give you business advice, right? But with a private capital investor, you do get that advice. So if you know are a larger corporation, private equity, as well as a commercial bank financing and so on. So it's a whole life cycle, it's a whole value chain, from the startup to the scale up to the established businesses. So depending on where you are, depending on, as Chris Williams mentioned just now, your capital structure. What can your business support in terms of a capital structure? What do you need your capital structure to be to support your business? These are some of the questions that you need to ask.
Okay, that's a really, really valid point that Audrey just made. And for listeners, it all depends. It's a case of gradation. Where do you stand? Where is your business in the stage of development? Do you need seed capital? Are you a medium enterprise? Do you need capital to get more equipment? I think she makes a very good point there. Mr. Brown, go through some of the options as you see it.
All right. So I think where I'll start for the listeners is for them to go online to DBJ's website. There's something called Find My Stage. I think if you Google Find My Stage, a platform will pop up for you to answer a number of questions, and it will tell you which stage you are in. So whether you're at the seed stage or the early stage or established stage. And then it will also give you options for what products would be best suited for you in your particular stage. So some of which, if you are in that very early startup stage, you just have an idea and you want to expand the idea. We have, for those in the universities, there's a national business model competition that we run, which helps you to ideate and formalize those ideas. There are business incubators that are located around the island that have different programs that also help you to ideate. So it's incubation for your idea and your business. We have our voucher for technical assistance program that allows you to get more support, guidance, coaching, mentorship with those ideas and putting them formally into a business plan and developing marketing plan. So the things you need to prepare you to go to market. Once you're in that startup stage where you've started business, you know, there are additional services. You could get more coaching and mentorship. You could get support for your marketing plans. You can get support for your accounting system, so establish CRM facilities so you can manage sales, and you start digitizing some of your processes so you can be more efficient. And seed capital grants, innovation fund grants, grants to help you to patent your particular ideas, which currently there are some, and DBJ is in the process of developing more instruments along those particular lines, which we really want to encourage all entrepreneurs to try and avail themselves of. Because, you know, something I'll also encourage is any competition, whether it's business model, business competition, enter it and try and win the prize money so you can get some seed capital so you can reinvest in your business. That's something that entrepreneurs should always be looking forward to if they want to move further.
Okay. Eddie, I find in a lot of instances, a lot of people do not know what exactly is venture capital, private equity. I'll give you an instance. A youngster said to me, mezzanine financing, what floor in the bank can I find that? Yeah. So, yes, exactly. So, can you just go through the distinction so people know clearly what it is and what they can do with the various forms? Ram, can you go through that?
Sure. So if you look at the capital structure of a business, it ranges from at the floor, the ground floor, equity. That's the seed capital that the investors have put in. They might have gotten it from friends, family, and others, right, to get the business up and running. At the other extreme of the business, what you'll have is what they call the senior secured debt, right? That takes the first priority out of cash flows, equity at the bottom. In between that, there are several options available for our business. So you spoke about the building,
yes,
and the building having all these different floors. So in the middle of all of that, you have subordinated debt. You have debt that is not secured by real estate or a primary charge on the senior charge on the assets of the business. Your working capital, for instance, does not have to be secured by the physical assets of the business. Ideally, your working capital should be able to finance itself. So that would be unsecured financing. As you go further down in the structure, you might have mezzanine financing in the middle somewhere. You might have preference shares, which have a call on the equity of the business, but yeah, they have the option of being serviced. So it's a mix of structures that are available to businesses to manage the priorities in terms of claims on the business's cash flow, but also to manage the stability of the business at the base. So your foundation is your equity. And as you build that business and you need to scale it or grow, then you can get the funding, the debt financing to expand, the mezz in the middle, the pref shares. So that's the kind of structure. So the analogy of the building wasn't a bad one at all.
You explained it brilliantly, actually. I thought you explained it brilliantly, and it plugs into the point that Audrey made earlier about where you are exactly,
right,
and the stage of the business and what you need.
That's very critical.
Yeah. Can I just say something,
Yes.
Al? I think one of the messages that we want to get across to our entrepreneurs out there is that we used to hear a lot from entrepreneurs. I have this great idea and the bank will not finance me, right?
Yes.
The banks are, in many instances, that probably 99.9%, are probably not going to finance an idea, right? It might be a really unusual funder who will do that. So the message that we're trying to get out is that understand where your business is and understand what is available, what is suited to your business at that stage.
Yes. To that point, Audrey, something I've heard over the years in Jamaica where people say if Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg were Jamaican, there'd be no such thing as Microsoft or Facebook. In other words, you go to the banks with a fantastic idea, they won't look at you. Which speaks to your point. Chris, do you wanna kind of elucidate on that, and then add to the fact that Chris, you're probably one of the guys who really put the capital market on the map in Jamaica. There's no question about that. What are you seeing, and can you also go through the various options?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there is no question that the evolution of access to financing of Jamaica is light years behind that of the United States. It doesn't, we can't make that comparison. We're not there as an economy that provides stability and ability to plan and reduced risk-free rates. That was the key. The key is that GOJ needed to establish fiscal discipline and step back and allow the private sector to step forward, and that has been achieved over the last 6 to 7 years with the various interventions that took place, and that allowed the capital market and the private financing market to step forward. And now we have some capacity building to do in the space. We have capacity building to do on the entrepreneur side, where we have to get entrepreneurs to understand how to package an idea and how to price it. And then we also have to do capacity building. We first had to build an industry, which is what the DBJ has been doing over the last 7 years, where they've been trying to build an industry and get financing players to put in place a pool of funds to look at financing entrepreneurs in a different way. And that process is ongoing. It required, as I said, lower interest rates for risk-free instruments. It required competence at the analyst level, at the senior management level, at the board level, to be able to appreciate and understand how to make those decisions. So we're not there yet. So I agree, we probably would not have had a Facebook if the financing was sought out of Jamaica. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to have the ability to have a Facebook 2 years from now. When we're not stopping. We're working on building the capacity. And Carrier's role is to help in that regard. We have close to 20 members now on our slate. A number of those members are from the established traditional financing platforms, and they have carved out a piece of their balance sheet to look at these alternative financing structures. And so we are making progress in that regard. Now what we're doing is we're building the capacity of these pools of funds to understand and appreciate ideas and to be able to back ideas. So, Rome was not built in a day, and so neither is going to be the private financing market. And we are working. That's why we're on this program. We're letting entrepreneurs know. As soon as we're finished with these webinars, we're going into webinars with our members, where we're going to be training them on pricing the idea and giving due credit to the entrepreneur for coming up with the idea and utilizing the methods to give them some equity just for the idea. And that is a major hurdle. And then, of course, understanding the structures towards that financing, whether it be straight equity, whether it be preferred equity, whether it be private credit, mezz credit, etc. So we have some work, but we're not stopping. We're not stopping. That's what we're here for. We're here to work.
Okay, yes, in short, we've
We've
come a long way, but we do have some way to go.
We have a lot of way to go. A lot
Okay.
of capacity building is one of the key areas of focus for the DBJ as well as for Carrier. We are determined to build the capacity on the entrepreneur side as well as on the industry side. What the industry is first of all created, it never existed. We now have created it. Now what we have to do is build the capacity of the industry and get on. I mean, getting 20 members is not an easy feat. Getting into Social, Sagicor, JMB,
yeah.
everybody is now a member. So now what we have to do is to get them trained, get them to appreciate and understand how to value these business opportunities.
Good point there, Chris. Equity support gives one a shock absorber, which is a fillip in developing economies like Jamaica. You know, developing economies. Entrepreneurs are not pressured to immediately generate revenues in order to pay off time-specific debt, allowing businesses to focus on their operations and growth. This pandemic will undoubtedly put undue pressure on businesses, repaying bank loans and meeting payrolls. Then you have hurricanes and other damage wrought by Mother Nature. How best can we get Jamaicans to see the merits of this route? Eddie, you want to start this time?
I think, well, our history of hurricanes, our history of now COVID, for instance, indicates that a lot of businesses, as you've said, are having challenges servicing debt. So from that perspective, businesses should now be aware that equity is a very important part of their structure. Just as we indicated with different floors, you must have the foundation, and you need a strong foundation. So you might need not just one floor, you might have 3 floors before you get to the others, right? So you have enough to absorb those different shocks.
Yes, yeah.
Now, a lot of, as the panel has said, it's capacity building, it's training, it's the demonstration effect. I think we have a lot of success stories coming out of the DBJ, but also in Jamaica. We might not have a Facebook, but we have a lot of companies that certainly have come through from startup stage.
Swaby's company.
JMB.
Yeah, I mean, you have companies that have passed through our Ignite program
Ignite,
that are now on the stock exchange. So there is a lot of hope, and a lot of businesses, we believe, are now seeing that. So the more we're able to tell the story to the public, to you, the viewers, to recognize that there are companies that have been funded, that started out small, that have come through, they've taken the training that has been available. Yes, they had debt along the way, but they've been able to turn that over and to turn it into equity, real equity, getting value for themselves and creating value for other shareholders as well. So I think telling those stories, building the capacity of the industry players. I mean, there's one thing that it's a kind of fantasy that I'd love to see, where any investor, so a farmer in Westmoreland who has a good farm going, shouldn't have to come into Kingston to get, all of those layers of funding. So if the networks can be built across Jamaica, where we can educate our population, we have the trained providers, as Audrey has been doing at the program, then I believe that's a big start. And I think coming out of this COVID experience, the recovery that is needed will require a lot of that rethinking of how we're structuring and running our businesses. So I think this will create some momentum for that.
Okay. Chris Brown, your take?
Yeah, well, I think as Chris Williams mentioned, we're talking about developing an industry, right? An industry that will facilitate access for businesses. As in, one part of the industry that we're working on is these business incubators. So those who will provide you with ongoing technical support, mentorship, coaching, possible link to markets through their networks and so forth. As we develop that part of the industry, you will see a lot more resistance being built in businesses to be able to navigate some of the troubling times. Because as every entrepreneur out there will understand, business isn't easy and it isn't smooth sailing all the time. You just need to be able to develop protocols to manage your risk and to understand how to operate your business. And that's a key aspect of the industry that we are focusing a lot of effort on, to ensure that businesses can be educated and their capacity can be built so that they can weather the storms when they come.
Okay. Chris Williams, you wrote a great article, and I'd advise all our listeners, if they can go back, I think it was in the Observer 3 or 4 weeks ago, about the importance of equity, and basically saying you can, why, rather than go the debt route, go the equity route and get someone takes a stake in your business and you finance your business. You made that point very well in that article. Do you probably want to have a look at that again, and what do you see as far as equity is concerned in businesses in Jamaica?
There are some guidelines that should be followed, that are advised by analysts, and those guidelines / risk metrics demonstrates that your debt to equity ratio shouldn't be than X or Y, and when we take a look at a lot of the finance entities, a lot of the private sector entities getting off the ground, a lot of people like to talk about the fact that they got their start from a loan, and so it's pretty much 100% debt finance to get the business off the ground. That, in a volatile, unpredictable world, it's not just Jamaica anymore, it's a complete world. We're going through various shocks, whether it be terrorism, whether it be pandemics, financial, whether it be weather related. We're going through several shocks. My grandmother would always say that, make sure you're safe for a rainy day. And one thing is for sure, when you're living in Jamaica, it's gonna rain. You understand? So saving for a rainy day is not even just a theoretical thing. Like, must rain in Jamaica. So you have to have that equity in place to provide some sort of shelter. It's like your umbrella. Provide some sort of shelter for the entity during the rainy days. And so we want you to force the conversation. We may not at this time be able to satisfy all the entrepreneurs. We understand that. But we want you to force the conversation through discussions with Carrier. Go to our website, Carrier, CARIA.org, and get information on our membership, or even just contact us directly. Speak to the DBJ if necessary. There are a number of entities that are now looking for equity opportunities. So, begin to share the discussion on your equity venture, and let us begin to have the conversation. Because, as I said, our rain. So if it's our rain, make sure you have an umbrella, and equity is your umbrella. And so we are here trying to give you more options, but you need to step forward and do the research and have the discussions. So we want people to begin to step forward and start talking, and stop just walking to bank manager and go down on your knees and beg them. Anyway.
Audrey, would you like to add that? There's a famous saying about banks. When it's signing, they're quick to lend you the umbrella, but when it's raining, they take the umbrella away.
The reality is that you've heard the saying, cash is king.
Yes, right.
Right? And a lot of what we're saying really comes back to that. in that you could qualify for a loan if your business has the kind of cash flow and the coverage and you have the collateral that the banks require, right? But if you are an early stage business, or if you're a business that has now been impacted by COVID pandemic, and your markets, where you got your cash from, that's not going to be coming back, or it's going to be coming back slowly. You need to be able to survive. Cash is king. So if you can get funding from somebody who believes in your business, equity fund that gives you the cash that you need to then be able to bring back, as you bring back your markets, to then be able to give a return to that investor who has put money in your business, then that is what it's all about, which is why you have to look at the appropriate flexible financing that is appropriate for your business.
Are there enough venture capitalists to meet that need?
Venture capitalists, no, not yet. Not yet. We're looking at that.
Okay.
And we think that the private sector players, there's an interest in more and more. But there is an SME fund that we know that there are a number of private sector players who are looking to provide funding to SMEs, which is different from a venture capitalist.
Okay. What is clear is that the Development Bank of Jamaica is not looking to be the sole repository for providing ways to finance a new venture or existing one. You're all part of a wider ecosystem intent on building the Jamaican economy. How best can inclusive sustainability be achieved? What role will the DBJ play with the recently announced Boosting Innovation, Growth and Entrepreneurship Ecosystem, BIGGI?
All right, I'll take
Please,
it.
Ramble.
So the BIGGI program, as the ministry announced, is really supposed to be all about strengthening the system of innovation and entrepreneurship. I'd like to break it down into 3 areas that we're supporting. Firstly, the supply of capital, so financing. So whether that is through a venture capital fund, which we would be developing. So jointly, after the SME fund, there will be a venture capital fund. They probably might operate in the space at the same time or one after the other, dependent on what the demand is like, right? So the supply of financing, whether it's through venture capital, or which is equity as we spoke about, or a number of different seed funds or grants that can allow businesses to explore innovation and actually innovate some more. And then the other area is really around the supporting institutions that can provide technical assistance, business development services, guidance. Because as Chris Williams mentioned, a key thing that many investors speak about is that the businesses that they're looking at who want financing are not ready. And ready meaning not ready to manage the financing in an efficient way. Maybe they haven't explored enough of the markets for them to start growing sales in a rapid way. And there are techniques and really guidance that is required for entrepreneurs and businesses to take advantage of those. And the BIGGI looks at strengthening those 3 parts of the system so that at the end of it all, you have a business that somebody with an idea, they would get enough technical support, they might get access to some grant funding, they prove that this product is useful in the market, they can then go to the equity investors and get some equity. So we're talking about, as Edison puts it, the first 3 floors. You explore those before you look at the other financing instruments. And once you have that solid foundation of enough capacity building, the right type of financing that is in your business, and you are innovating, I would say that the sky is really the limit. The Facebook in the next 2 years is probably where we're looking at, and maybe it's Facebook related to agriculture, right? A sector that is key in Jamaica and the Caribbean.
Okay. So you started a business. To those out there, you started a business. How do you find capital to scale and grow that business? What is your advice to businesses that are looking to move to the next level? Chris, do you want to take that?
Which Chris? Williams?
William. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the point that we're emphasizing to entities is we don't want to overemphasize capital. So I want to use this question to jump in a little bit on competence. I'd hinted at it earlier, but I like to say that to scale a successful business needs capital and competence. And there are some governance structures that are strongly recommended that hopefully with the Biggie program we're going to be able to put the institutional frameworks in place to help to train the entrepreneurs. But the entrepreneurs must recognize that 2, 3, 4, 5 heads are better than one. And so the ability to establish an advisory board or just a board straight up is a critical part of evolving your business and making sure that you're not convincing yourself of that a stupid idea is a good idea, and so you have somebody that you're bouncing these thoughts off, and a fairly independent, determined and structured individual. So I want we're talking a lot about capital, but competence plays equal, if not a greater role in the success of the business. So we want entrepreneurs to understand that there are some governance guidelines that we will also bring to the table as financiers that will help to make the business more structured and then in the long run make the business more successful. In terms of scaling for capital, you do have a wider range. I think at the startup level is our weakest point. As we come up to the scaling capital stage, we begin to have greater options. We have better banking facilities. We understand that once a business is established for 2 to 3 years and you have financials, the bank is more willing to look at it. We have private equity versus venture capital, and we have a lot more players in the private equity space than we have in the venture capital space. And so you have a lot more support at that level. And then, of course, you have the public markets, you have the capital market that we spoke of earlier, where you can now go to the junior market and access capital in that way and scale the business from that source. So when you get to the scaling stage, we're a little bit more comfortable. We feel that the market is a lot more developed there. We have more access to financing channels, whether it be through the traditional commercial bank, whether it be through carrier and membership and alternative financing options, or whether it be through the security dealers and the capital markets. There are a lot more options right there. Finally, I think I want to emphasize that in the very same way that you have a health partner, I think it's important for entrepreneurs to ensure that they have a wealth partner and that they have an individual or an entity that they can turn to for guidance and advice. What I find is that entrepreneurs tend to sit on the other side of the table and just see you as an entity to write a check, and that they're their own financial advisor, and all you are is a check writer, and you're selling us short as an industry. We do have the ability to provide good, independent, sound financial advice, just in terms of the capital structure that's appropriate, just in terms of the kinds of tenures of financing that you should require, maybe even to the extent of also competence in terms of your board and so on. So I think you want to utilize us also in an advisory capacity. and get some ideas on structure and so on from your financial partner, not just when you need money, and see us as a source of 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 cash. We don't just want to be a sugar daddy, we want to.
All right, Audrey, do you want to quickly answer that? And then I want to do a follow-up question, which Eddie, you can take up. Go ahead, Audrey. You want to just add to what Chris was saying?
Yeah, well, as he said, the investor is looking for, it's a partnership, it's a marriage. It's, it's not a one-way street. It's a marriage. So
a lot of people don't understand that.
A lot of people, which is why even as you are, as an entrepreneur looking for capital, it's not every investor that is going to be the right partner. Right. So that's one of the messages that I want. So even if you make a pitch to that first investor, whether it's an angel or a VC or a SME fund or private equity fund, or even the bank, that might not be the right partner for you. Don't be discouraged. Re-look at some of your strengths, your weaknesses, your pitch, understand your business. Come to them with all the things that they're looking for. And as Chris mentioned, it's not just the business and the idea, but your team, the traction in your market, the total market that you have. And all of these things, you come as a package. So you re-look at the package and approach another investor.
Okay. Eddie, follow-up question. For this series, we've focused a lot on alternative investments as a complementary funding option for Jamaican entrepreneurs. But what are the attractive interest rates and loan portfolio from the DBJ? When might debt financing be more preferable?
So,
and why is it important for the DBJ to support MSMEs?
Right. So MSMEs, as you started at the beginning of the program, are the engine of growth.
Right.
They are the employers. They are the foundation of the economy. We have lots of large businesses. What we try to encourage also is linkages. So we have small businesses servicing our BPOs, servicing our tourism, servicing overseas partners. We have a lot of entrepreneurs doing transactions and business through the internet overseas. Those are strong businesses in their own right. Now, the issue of financing, there are a couple of ways you can look at it. One is you want to balance your capital structure. Equity, once the business is going good, that's where all the gains go. So if 50% is the return on equity and you can get financing at 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%, then it allows you to leverage your returns. Now, one of the things that DBJ has been doing over the years is supporting the market, trying to get the market to provide appropriate terms for businesses. So yes, we've always led with the carrot of low interest rates and long tenors. The market is in a position now where you can go to any institution and you should be able to get attractive financing from them at appropriate rates. But we're going beyond that. We're going, as I said earlier, we're going to look at things like your working capital shouldn't have to be tied up by your house. So if you have receivables that's turning over regularly, you should be able to get receivables financing totally separate and apart from tying up your house in that. So the other thing that we're doing is building out the different institutions, because yes, we talk about commercial banks on one end and equity providers on the other. But in between that, you have to have a whole set of different types of institutions that can attract funding at the different levels as we spoke about. So you have private credit in the middle, you have commercial banks, credit unions, you have microfinance lenders, venture capitalists, private equity companies. It's a whole mix of institutions. And again, one of the key things that DBJ focuses on is enlisting the private sector. So we're not out there trying to do everything ourselves. So when we, for instance, support business support providers, those are private sector entities that are able to provide that service to other businesses They don't only look for the business that DBJ sends their way. No, they should have created a business for themselves that they're helping other businesses grow, and they're building their track record and building, and as Audrey likes to talk about, the ecosystem.
Yes.
So it's not just institutions, but we're building up a panel, a whole network, a whole economy of providers. We're building up the capacity of the SMEs to be able to go to these providers, get the support. As Chris was saying, so you have somebody who is an expert software developer. That doesn't mean that they're a strong business owner or somebody able to manage a business. Or you might have a medical doctor in the same. So then the shared services model, all of these things where persons are able to get the services that they need. They're able to pull together their governance structures where they have directors and advisory boards that can support them, angel investors, all of that ecosystem or that support structure is what we're trying to do. So it's not just about the cost of the financing. It's about the whole structure that can be put in place so that people can access it whenever they need it.
Okay, that's a good segue into my next question. The DBJ plays an important part in empowering the private sector, encouraging investment in funds. How do you garner more private sector support? And what can it do to better help entrepreneurs? I think that's an appropriate question for you, Audrey,
Right.
then Mr. Brown. Go ahead, Audrey.
What you
You've
do,
talked about it a lot, actually.
yeah, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of what we have done to create this empowerment is education, right? It was never about DBJ setting up a fund and
Right.
starting to invest.
Right.
So what we did is we educated and trained a lot of our investor community, a lot of their portfolios. Their balance sheets were always heavily either government paper, government paper securities, or real estate, or some listed equity. So now what we have done is we have given them the tools to be able to understand and be able to evaluate, an entrepreneur who comes and pitches to you. Many of us might have watched Shark Tank.
Yes.
We've been able to give the entrepreneur those tools. They don't just step out
Yes.
of the business one day and stand in front of the sharks. They actually go through a process of coaching, understanding what are the drivers of the business that the investor is going to be interested in. So you train the investors, you train the entrepreneurs. There's still a lot more work to be done. We're still not where we need to be. But what we're seeing now is that investors are stepping up to the plate. They don't need a DBJ to be the anchor, the trainer. They are now able to step forward and start doing their own evaluations and investing.
Okay, Audrey. Chris Brown?
I really don't have much to add to Audrey. As in, it's just part of a market. You want more people to invest in funds, they need to have a lot more investable projects or businesses to invest in. And so therefore you have to build the capacity of those businesses so that they can operate efficiently so the investors find them attractive. And I think that's ultimately what we have been doing, let's say, for the past 5 years, and will continue to do for the next 10 years in just strengthening that whole market.
Okay. A virtual advisory tracking mechanism has been created. This allows prospective and existing business owners to know who is providing grants, equity financing, and other sources of capital. How effective is it, and how can this portal be accessed?
Right. Well, I mentioned earlier the Find My stage, which really allows you to understand where in the business life cycle you are and gives you advice on which types of products and who you can access those products from. So I'll encourage the viewers again to go to DBJ's site and click on our Find My stage, or go in Google and search Find My stage, DBJ, and it will pop up and you can access the platform.
Okay, this is a question for you, Chris Williams, and it's something I've seen you do over the years. How can mentorship play a role in capacity building? And generally, can we all talk a little bit about the cooperation agreement signed with the IDB Lab and how it can help entrepreneurs? Chris, you can probably take the first part of that. Chris Williams.
No, I want to graduate a little beyond the mentorship. Having mentored, for years, I want to graduate a little bit beyond that. I want to say that I think that the business from day one needs to be structured properly with the correct governance structures in place, and I don't see any reason to avoid having a board in place and establishing the reporting structure and the guidelines and the reporting documentation. All of that I think are critical to success. And so I feel like we're kind of selling the idea a little bit short when we limit it to the mentoring level, and it becomes almost like when you have the time you talk to me, as opposed to a more structured approach where you are a director and you meet monthly and you review the financial reporting and etc. and etc. So I want to go to that level. I also want to reemphasize that we are looking through the Big E program at establishing entities, accelerators, incubators, etc., that will provide you with the kind of access to the directors and the talents that you would need. We do recognize that it's going to be difficult for you to get access to the type of people that you would want to be your directors. And so what we're looking at doing is establishing those accelerators and incubator models. I also chair the Branson Center, and we are an accelerator, and we do provide directors and we go out and solicit individuals that want to serve and then match them to entrepreneurs. So we're making some progress there. I don't want you to, I know the story you're going to say, but where am I going to find, competent directors? I don't know anybody, but we're trying to fill that gap and help with the matchmaking in that regard. So don't panic just yet. But I think that competence is required at a board level as opposed to just at a mentor level.
Okay, Eddie, do you want to quickly add to that? So, I make mention of the IDB lab and its role about and the cooperation agreement.
I think we cannot underscore enough the value of mentorship, coaching, simply put, good governance in a business. Mm-hmm. So as Chris Williams is indicating, it's critical. If you're starting a business, it's good to have somebody to bounce the idea off. Don't just get up and go head first into something. The discipline of reporting, of maintaining your records, of seeking guidance, seeking out information, having a team that you can bounce that off on a regular basis, monthly, for a board is good, where you can just be accountable to somebody or to a team that has other perspectives, not just that of the promoter of the business who says this is the best thing ever and that's the only thing that they can see. It's critical to have that advisor structure in place, and it's something we tend to encourage all the businesses that we encounter, whether it's for debt financing or other, that you need to put in place some kind of a governance structure that keeps you accountable, that keeps you thinking, and you don't get trapped in a tunnel where you're stuck with just this one perspective that you have, and by the end of the day you don't know what's happening. On IDB, I'd throw it over to Audrey or Crystal.
Well, certainly IDB Lab, you mentioned mentoring and coaching in the same sentence as IDB Lab. And IDB has not just provided funding to the DBJ and supported our projects over the years through financing. What they have brought is their experience, right? So even with the venture capital program, as we were developing that program, we looked at what Brazil did with their Innovar program, which was supported by IDB. We understood what were the lessons that they learned, and we understood the structure that they put in place. They gave us access to networks overseas. So we've had several conferences, international conferences here in Jamaica, and we've brought in persons who have been able to give us the perspective and guide us in relation to how it operates there, and for us now to adapt it to our reality here in Jamaica in being able to develop an industry. So we're not developing an industry that is inward looking, that is just Jamaica. We're taking the best advice, the best mentorship, the best coaching, looking to the best experts overseas and looking to see what we can do in Jamaica and the region to make the Caribbean region a relevant region. When we go overseas and we say, where our entrepreneurs go overseas and say, they're a business in the Caribbean, it must be that they now have a certain profile. Right. And that's the vision that we have.
Actually, yes. I'd be remiss of me if I don't. This is the very last question, and I really need to get this in. It's often been said that there's little help in Jamaica for entrepreneurs starting out. The DBJ is making efforts to debunk that notion, recently relaxing TCC requirements for 12 months and creating an SME fund. What other recent initiatives has the DBJ put in place that entrepreneurs should know about?
Right. Well, I'll speak to some that we are going to put in place over the next 3 to 4 months. We're going to launch an innovation fund that's primarily supporting small and medium-sized enterprises to innovate, to do innovative products. These would be existing businesses that are looking to add new products or new processes or new ways of operating to increase their efficiency. We're planning on launching a seed capital fund, or Ignite 3, as people are more familiar with the brand, which will get startups access to seed capital and it's a coaching and mentorship that comes along with it. One of the requirements, well, for both of the products is that you must have a board that is established on the innovation fund side, and for the seed fund you need to have at least an advisory board that is in place, because again, I want to emphasize what Chris Williams said. Having that proper governance corporate structure is key to success. Many entrepreneurs, I think they believe they know it all and are not very open to views of others, or who you have around you are just telling you yes because they support it and not giving you independent views. It's very important for us. So I think that's key. So those two, and then the last I'll say is access to digital transformation services, right? So I think COVID has pointed everybody in the direction that more virtual or digital ways of operating are essential. So we will have vouchers that are able to allow businesses to get greater access to those services and products.
Okay, can you take that point as well? Audrey, you mentioned to me about a particular fund whereby the government comes up with 5, the fund manager comes up with 10 million. Do you want to quickly go into that?
Right, that's one of the we actually have out a call for proposals right now. Right. For fund managers, whether local or international fund managers who want to be able to raise capital in order to invest in Jamaican SMEs. Right, fantastic. It doesn't have to be exclusively Jamaican, but certainly the funding that the DBJ will provide, which will be up to 5 million, they will have to match that with 10 million US dollars. And that 15 million has to be focused on Jamaican SMEs. Fantastic. So we're looking forward to you know, the kind of proposals that would come in.
Eddie? Yeah, I mean, the two things I'd probably highlight at this stage would be, one, we have a credit guarantee. So where an enterprise needs loan financing, we're getting banks and credit unions, commercial bank, everybody to shift away from traditional, depending solely on traditional collateral. So what we've put in place is a credit guarantee called our Credit Enhancement Fund. Viewers can look on dbjcef.com. I'll repeat it, dbjcef.com, where you can get all the details on it. But it provides guarantees up to $30 million, where DBJ, that fund, will actually guarantee up to 80% of loans for businesses. So if they don't have the traditional collateral that the lenders require to give them that security, then they can access this guarantee through their financial institutions. One of the things that DBJ has done is put in place electronic platforms. So all of these things are available electronically. The SMEs can access it on the website that I told you about, but the lenders actually have a fully automated electronic platform where once they approve this funding, they're able to just issue those guarantees immediately. So that's another thing that we're highlighting. The other side of it, which I mentioned a little bit before, is the working capital financing. So we're coming out with our reverse factoring product, where persons who are supplying goods to buyers and it's taking them 90 days, 120 days, however long to get paid. Now we've put in place a program that can allow them to get paid, let's say within a week of the invoice being
Is that operational now, or is that coming down the line?
We should have it by the end of this month, operational.
Yes.
So it's brand new, but it will
Fantastic.
unlock that entire portion of the balance sheet where working capital financing is concerned, and allow businesses to turn over that money rather than having to wait for however long, and they can't take advantage of opportunities. So that's another thing that those are the two things that I highlight, the guarantee and the reverse factoring.
Okay. Chrissy Williams, the last word with you.
The last word, Al, is let's get moving. Let's get moving, man. I'm tired of this talking now. The entrepreneurs need to understand that, we are working around the clock, DBJ, Carrier, IDB, to help them, and they need to begin to help themselves. And that is by coming in and interacting with us and letting us know what's happening. I mean, we need a line outside DBJ. We need.
Virtual.
Chris is saying virtual.
We need
Online.
Online.
If we're really going to explode this country and rebound from this pandemic, then we need people to move. We need you to move now, and get going, recognize that entrepreneurship is one of the key pillars to both country as well as individual financial independence, and we're here, to help you. And you're not helping yourself. You need to step forward. We need 10,000 people on this stream. We need people lined up outside DBJ, ready to access information and get themselves out of their current zone. So my final word is, make something happen now, Jamaica. Make something happen now. Move.
And there you have it. Whether you're starting up, small, micro, medium enterprise, it would behoove you to come into the DBJ, look at the various options, sit down with them, see whether they can hold your hand in taking your business to the next level, making you grow, helping your company take it to the level you want to be. Thank you for attending and tuning in to our webinar. Until the next time, goodbye and have a good day.
Great.